Regarding his publication of his enemies list, Mr. Patel proclaimed, "The manhunt starts tomorrow," and reposted a video depicting him taking a chainsaw to his political enemies. Is that you, Kash Patel, reposting that at the top of that page? Thanks, Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Patel. I remember January 6th. Colleagues running through our halls to flee the mob, colleagues shouting that rioters should be shot, us returning to our constitutional business through hallways cleared for us by automatic weapons carrying SWAT teams. None of you, none of us, said those violent rioters should be pardoned. A Republican colleague said such pardons would be hard to believe, even absurd. Your former colleague, J.D. Vance, said the violent rioters should not be pardoned. Even Jim Jordan said pardons would, and I quote, "focus on all the people who didn't commit any violence." Well, Trump pardoned all of them. And there's a lesson in that. Every time you think Trump would never go that far, rethink that. We all seem to agree that violence against police is unacceptable, yet more than 600 people who physically attacked Capitol Police officers were just put back on the street, part of a 1,500-person personal Trump army, now out there with people who have proven themselves willing to do violence on Trump's call. In only 10 days, some are already back committing crimes. We've also tried as a committee, together, to address the dangers of illicit drug sales over the internet, and I assume we're all against murder for hire. But Trump also just pardoned a dark web operator sentenced to life in prison for trafficking illegal drugs online and accused of soliciting murders for hire. Those pardons, as Mr. Patel has said, are a mistake, but they are also a signal that we are entering a strange and dangerous time. That is the context for today's hearing. Warnings that the FBI could become Trump's enforcer, use the powers of law enforcement to stifle speech and dissent, punish political rivals of either party, and hand out free passes, get out of jail free cards to violent supporters are warnings we should heed. Here are some warnings of this nominee's Trump administration colleagues. Former Attorney General Bill Barr said, "This nominee has virtually no experience that would qualify him to serve at the highest level of the world's preeminent law enforcement agency," end quote, "and we would never be able to command the respect necessary to run the day-to-day operations of the Bureau." That's for the deputy position. Former CIA Director Gina Haspel was reported threatening to resign rather than have this nominee serve under her. John Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor, said, "I didn't think he was qualified. I was forced to hire him." Trump's deputy national security advisor, the nominee's former supervisor, said, "His ideas are ludicrous. He's absolutely unqualified for this job. He's untrustworthy. And it's an absolute disgrace to even consider an individual of this nature." That's from Republican appointees who worked with him. And here's what this nominee himself has said about using his office to prosecute journalists. "We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. We're gonna come after you, whether it's criminally or civilly." Is that a correct quotation, Mr. Patel?
Senator, I had nothing to do with the creation of that meme.
Is that you reposting it, was my question.
And that's me at the top.
You said FBI agents were responsible for the violence on January 6th, and I quote you here, "beyond a reasonable doubt." Is that what you said?
That's completely incorrect, and I appreciate the opportunity to address that.
I'll give you an opportunity in writing, but this is my time now.
Okay. Have at it.
An Inspector Attorney General investigation found that that was false. And you said we should impeach judges who rule against Donald Trump, who are, in your words, political terrorists. When this nominee tries to explain all this away, keep one thing in mind. He's testified under oath before a Colorado judge who presided over a Trump case in which he was a witness, and the judge found, and I'm quoting here, he was not a credible witness. His testimony is not only illogical, but completely devoid of any evidence in the record. That's from a judge. This is a dangerous time, and I ask all my colleagues to consider whether these plain comments by this person and by his own Trump administration colleagues should be given a blind eye, just overlooked, or whether, like the warnings of pardoning violent January 6 offenders, they're warnings to be heeded. There is an unfathomable difference between a seeming facade being constructed around this nominee here today and what he has actually done and said in real life when left to his own devices. Conduct shows character. And if you look at history, you see the danger of security chiefs in authoritarian regimes becoming the tools of political power. The characteristics that they often show are that they are vengeful, that they are grandiose, that they are intemperate, that they are partisan and blindly loyal, and that they are servile and won't say no. I'm afraid that the history of this nominee's conduct raises those warnings. And I yield my 1 second.
What we just witnessed wasn't a normal hearing. It was a slow-motion power struggle between the Senate and the FBI, between elected oversight and entrenched bureaucracy. And at the center of it all, Director Patel, a man who now carries the weight of restoring public trust in one of America's most powerful and most controversial agencies. Senators demanded answers about loyalty tests, whistleblowers, Epstein files, and politically charged dismissals inside the Bureau. But Patel? He stood his ground, and he stood it like someone who knows every word will be turned into a headline within minutes. Let's be real. The idea that dozens of FBI officials were being polygraphed for loyalty is something out of a dystopian movie. America's federal agents swear an oath to the Constitution, not to a director. And when senators ask if career officials are being grilled about whether they've ever said something negative about Patel, that's not oversight, that's a test of democracy itself. And Patel's response? Classic deflection. He says polygraphs are for tracking leaks, not loyalty. Maybe so, but here's the problem. Once a federal agency starts asking questions about personal opinions, not classified disclosures, it crosses a line that separates national security from political paranoia. Then the room heated up again. The talk turned to the Epstein case. A whistleblower allegedly claimed the FBI's New York field office was sitting on Epstein-related records. Patel denied it. Bondi ordered a lightning-fast review of over 100,000 files, demanding any mention of President Trump be flagged. That memo? Released unsigned. And that's when you have to stop and ask, why unsigned? Why unaccountable? Patel brushed it off with sarcasm. Would you prefer I used AutoPen? But sarcasm doesn't erase suspicion. Transparency shouldn't depend on attitude. It depends on accountability. The Epstein scandal from day one has been a test of how far the justice system is willing to go when the powerful are involved. And to this day, the answer remains, not far enough. Then came one of the most explosive exchanges about Patel's deputy, Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent turned commentator, now second in command of the FBI, accused of calling the January 6th pipe bombs an inside job. White House and others came loaded with receipts, but Patel's defense was personal and emotional. He said, "You're questioning the integrity of two men with 31 years of service who delivered justice for this country every day." And honestly, whether you love him or hate him, that moment landed. It was fiery, unapologetic, and calculated to remind America that the FBI still sees itself as the shield, not the sword. But it also revealed something deeper: the war inside the Bureau itself. Old guard versus new leadership, traditional protocol versus populist reform. Patel isn't just answering questions, he's rewriting the culture of the FBI from the top down. And not everyone likes it. When senators pushed about terminated agents, veterans, decorated officers, Patel refused to give details. That silence sounded a lot like control, maybe even fear. Washington has learned that when bureaucrats stop answering, they're usually protecting something or someone. But the conversation didn't stop there. It turned to college degree requirements, recruitment reforms, and FBI training. Patel made it clear he's breaking the old mold. He's bringing in more cops, fewer bureaucrats. He's opening the door for street-level experience to matter more than credentials. That's a bold move and a risky one. Because yes, America needs agents who understand real crime, not just paperwork. But at the same time, the FBI isn't just about arrests. It's about judgment, intelligence, and the rule of law. And if that balance tips too far toward politics or personality, the consequences could be massive. So what do we really take away from this hearing? 1. Washington's trust in its own institutions is collapsing. When senators accuse the FBI of running loyalty tests, that's not oversight, that's desperation. 2. The Epstein question still haunts this government. The unsigned memo, the missing records, the mysterious whistleblower, every time the public gets close to answers, someone says, pending investigation. And 3, leadership in law enforcement is changing. Whether you see Patel as a reformer or a power consolidator, one thing's clear: he's not backing down, and neither are his critics. This hearing wasn't just about policy. It was about power. Who gets to define truth? Who gets to decide what's classified? Who gets to decide what America gets to know? Patel may have defended his record, but he didn't calm the storm. Because in 2025, the FBI isn't just an agency. It's a battlefield of belief between those who think it's corrupt and those who think it's under attack. And if hearings like this keep playing out, that battle is only getting louder. So here's the question that every American should be asking tonight. If loyalty tests, unsigned memos, and secret reviews is what transparency looks like, what does accountability even mean anymore? You can't rebuild trust with secrecy. You can't claim reform while punishing dissent. And you can't talk about defending democracy while testing your own people's loyalty. Because in the end, the truth doesn't need a polygraph. It needs courage. That's my take. What's yours? Do you think Patel is cleaning house or covering tracks? Is the FBI turning a corner or turning into something else entirely? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe because this story is just getting started. And I promise you, the next hearing is going to be even more explosive.